Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas with Coach Jack Hazen from Malone University and recently inducted into the U.S. Track Coaches Association Hall of Fame. You said that there's always new things, new techniques. You're developing some yourself and perhaps be presenting at next year's convention. Is there anything, I think of eggs and how at some point we were not supposed to eat them and then we're supposed to eat them. Is there anything as far as techniques with running that we know now is good for you that we used to think was bad for you, or we now know is bad for you that we used to think was good for you? Has anything come around full circle?
Well, we used to, way back in my early coaching, give salt tablets to athletes, and we now know that that's probably not the best thing to do. You put a concentrated amount of salt in one spot in your stomach, it draws fluid to dissolve it and digest it, and takes fluid away from your muscles that are trying to cool. And so there's a lot of things that have changed. It's interesting that you mentioned diet. We are just some of us are just embarking on a new theory. It's a new technique. It's called ketogenic eating, and it's eating high fat. For years.
No kidding.
For years, the food pyramid put grains as a high, carbohydrates as high, fats low.
Right.
And now we're finding that that's probably, it should have been upside down, maybe.
Really? And, so what? You're telling us to eat a lot of hamburgers?
It's too early to tell, but
okay.
The latest research shows that if you keep your carbohydrates at a fairly low rate, you start burning fat, and the unsaturated fat and the fat gotten from vegetable oil is not good for you, and it's the pure vegetable oil like olive oil.
Yes.
Or pure fat. An avocado is pure fat, but it's saturated fat, which we used to think is bad, but now we're thinking it doesn't stick to your arteries, it doesn't cause cholesterol buildup. And what actually happens, instead of burning sugar or glucose, the cells, all of your cells in your body burn ketones produced by the liver, and they seem to burn cleaner. Also, for instance, in the brain, the mitochondria has more mitochondria in the cell than muscle cell, and if you're burning ketones, it seems to help people with dementia, and so we're right on the edge of seeing if this is going to happen. But isn't it interesting that,
so interesting.
For instance, what the best thing for me to eat for breakfast is bacon and eggs, and years ago,
25 years ago, that would have been off the plate.
Right. So,
oh my goodness,
I've lost about 12 pounds, and have me back in a year, and I'll tell you if it works.
Okay, all right. So, by eating the fat, you've lost 12 pounds?
Yeah. So when you start burning ketones, when you eat a big meal and it's high carbohydrates, it burns up quickly, but the fat doesn't. And so I don't get hungry.
So a good slow burn.
And so I actually, we're probably not on the topic that you want to cover.
No, this is very interesting.
Last night I hadn't eaten all day, so I cooked myself a strip steak. And that was about 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, my goodness. That is everything we've been told not to do.
And I haven't eaten since then. I'm not hungry.
Really?
And what happens is your body starts burning ketones, and you start burning some of your own fat. Mm-hmm. And we all have plenty of stored fat.
That'd be the goal, right.
And so, it's
very
fascinating. And I'm not advising anyone to do it yet, but check it out.
Yeah.
Ketogenic diet.
Ketogenic diet.
Burn ketones instead of glucose.
And okay, there we go.
There you go.
Is that advice for someone who runs, or is that advice for anybody?
We're not sure yet.
Okay.
We haven't presented this to our athletes. My coaching staff, most of them have gone on this, and we're having great success. We're not sure if runners that expend high amounts of energy and burn high amounts of calorie, can exist on this yet, but it's looking like maybe they could, but we're definitely not going to advise our athletes to do it at this point.
Well, and some of the fats that you're talking about, such as olive oil, avocado, that's vegetables rather than red meat fat, like to live on T-bone steaks, although that sounds like
but
an
olive
awesome...
oil and avocados are vegetables that have
good fat.
Similar to animals.
Uh-huh.
And the hydrogenated, the vegetable oils that have been used to fry French fries and so forth, it actually has had a negative effect on us, and so we're finding out all kinds of new things. But it's interesting that you brought the topic up.
Well, I just think it's interesting that it changes all the time. The
And
more we learn,
I don't know a lot about what I'm talking about, so I'll make that disclaimer right away.
All right, but it's very
pretty
interesting.
exciting, though.
Pretty cool. Well, I know a lot of people that would be excited to hear that they need to eat more steak.
Yeah,
that would go over big in my
that's right.
house. Absolutely. I think it's interesting, too, when we're talking about distance running and going the distance, which is what you really do focus on now as the distance runners, yes?
Right.
That your whole career, look how many people can say that they taught beginning back in the year that you began teaching and coaching to now. That is going the distance, isn't it? And continuing to go. There's no finish line still ahead of you. You're continuing to go. And I think spiritually, how many scriptures in the Bible do they relate to running the race, sticking with it, going the distance? And it's just so applicable to so many parts of our lives. Can you talk about going the distance a little bit?
Yeah, well, a distance runner experiences, you have to learn to deal with pain. And that quote that I just gave about if excellence is in sight, if you think you can run a fast time, then just being good is not enough. You need to work a little harder. And a lot of people don't understand how that can be, that you can enjoy running and experiencing pain. And I remember an Olympic swimmer years ago, probably 30 years ago, Debbie Myers, I think her name was. She set a world record in the Olympic Games. And someone asked her, about it, and she said, well, I knew I was on world record pace as I was swimming. And they said, well, how did you know that? You don't have clocks under the water. How do you? She said, I had never experienced that level of pain before.
Wow. And
that always stuck with me. But it was enjoyable because she was reaching. I mean, she got a gold medal. She got a world record, and so I think also for me, running. I run every morning before I go to work at Malone, and I go out on the same trail basically every day, Stark Park Trail, and Dozer, my dog, goes with me, but it's just Dozer and myself, and I find that. That's how I really set the day. And that's how I get centered, and that's how I talk to God. Mm-hmm. And I pray as I run. I experience what God is telling me, and so that's been a very special time for me. And I kind of dread when a buddy comes up and says, "Hey, coach," and because I'm not quite done yet.
Yeah.
For example, when I thought about what I was going to say in my Hall of Fame acceptance speech. Mm-hmm. I planned that on one of these morning devotional runs, I would say, and it's become very special to me. However, I noticed that every year I get a little slower in my running, and this summer I was running at my normal pace, I thought, and I heard someone coming up behind me, so I'm a very friendly guy. I turned around to say good morning, and they were walking, and I was running. No. So it was kind of discouraging.
Some people walk really, really, really fast.
They do, that's right.
So, no, I don't think... The point is you're running. You're out there running every day.
The point is I'm moving.
How many people can say that?
Some people wouldn't say it's running, but...
Well, we'll call it... Again, you're so humble. Do you think there is something different that makes an athlete tick? That the swimmer, I'm going back to the swimmer who said, I knew I was on that pace because I'd never experienced that much pain before. Most of us, pain means stop doing this. For heaven's sake, stop doing this. For an athlete of her caliber, and maybe some others that you're talking about, that pain means, oh, okay, I'm really achieving something here. Go for it. What's the difference there?
Well, in our training for longer distance and cross country, we have basically 4 speeds that we work at. A recovery speed, which is very, very important. When an athlete works really hard on one day, they have to take the next day really slow, get the miles in, but it's a recovery pace. And then there are several paces that between that slow pace and then what we call lactate threshold or tempo pace, which is where you basically have to race at if you're racing a long distance. So we spend time on certain days at tempo, and then on certain days, and especially as we're getting later toward our main competitions, we'll even go higher than that with short intervals to experience more pain above lactate threshold. But we're always trying to push the limits of the body and how much lactate they can, in other words, how much oxygen you can use before you start building lactic acid. And then when you go beyond that, it becomes very painful. And I think an athlete has to experience that in a workout to be able to do it in a race.
Wow.
And know that it's coming and know how it feels and know that they can really push through it if they want to.
If need be. So truly, no pain, no gain.
Right.
That's where it
That's
boils
right.
down to that again.
Except on the recovery days.
Okay, except on recovery days. Those are important.
That's right. Well, some of our freshmen coming in, they want to make the team and they want to show off and show the coach that they can do it, and they won't take a recovery day. We spend most of the freshman year teaching our athletes you have to go slower on certain days. Maybe even 3 days a week you've got to be going slow.
You know what? And good. More good advice in life, I think. So much of what you're saying just applies to so many areas of our life. You've been a college coach for a while now. You've been an Olympic coach. You're now in the Hall of Fame. Is there a book in your future, or have you already written one? Where are you going to share all this knowledge you've got with the rest of us?
Well, in 1996, I worked the Atlanta Olympics. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't a coach. I was in the team management. I managed the games, helped manage the games, and I had some free time at certain times during the day. Our office was in the Olympic Stadium there in Atlanta, and I started a book. So I finished it about a year and a half later, and it was on coaching cross country. The magazine Track and Field News didn't have a book on coaching cross country, and they encouraged me to do it, and so I did that. And it's been quite a while ago, and I should revise it. But I'm right now. I have over 40 athletes, and next year we'll probably have 50 distance runners, counting men and women. We were so lucky to be able to hire back Dave Gramlich from the University of Akron. He's with us now, and
that's great.
He's helping me. But with 50 athletes that are, need advice and help each day, they're just, I feel there's no time.
Well, get back to that book eventually, and no retiring. I think that's just all there is to it. Coach Jack Hazen, congratulations on such a well-deserved award. You're in the Hall of Fame. We just expect to see you back in about another year with more accolades, and it's just always fun to talk with you. Thank you so much for all you contribute to our community.
You're welcome. Thank you, Susie.